Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome to Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. I am your host, Mark Stephen Pooler. We have a wonderful guest coming on to the show today, Serena Holmes, the accidental entrepreneur. So I'm really looking forward to an interesting conversation. I just want to make an official shout out to our show sponsors, Dreamweaver Artist Ranch. We are streaming live on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube. We're also streaming through mspnewsglobal.com. We're also on the E360 TV network under Fresh Takes, going out to Apple TV, Fire TV, Android TV, Roku, and many, many more. Excuse me. And we're also streaming on Business Innovators Radio Network. Let's bring in our incredible guest, Serena Holmes. Serena,
Hello.
Welcome to Brilliance Business TV.
Thanks for having me.
I'm really looking forward to a conversation with you, Serena. Firstly, my first question, can you share a little bit about your agency, Tigris Events?
Yeah, absolutely. So Tigris has been in business since 2004, and we basically call ourselves a brand experience agency because what we do for our clients can vary extremely wide. It could be something as simple as staffing a couple people. It could be hundreds of people. It could be concepting something completely from scratch. It could be building a larger than life size alarm clock to push all around the city. So it really, the sky's the limit. But ultimately, it's whatever a client wants it to be.
I like the sound of that, Serena. So what kind of clients do you serve? And just tell us a little bit about the kind of products and services that you offer your clients.
For sure. So we are probably a split of 50-50. So sometimes it could be agencies that come to us. That could be media agencies, ad agencies, advertising, sometimes even other event planners that want to use our staff, or sometimes they need a scalable solution for what they already do. In other cases, we could be direct to the brand. So a lot of times it's food and beverage, alcohol, a lot of telecom, electronics. Lately, there's been lots of apps and stuff like that. So
yes.
Again, it depends on what they would like us to do, but it's very much that 50-50 split between agencies and brands.
I'm guessing that keeps you very busy, Serena.
Yes, it definitely can.
Definitely. And you have also just got your real estate license, haven't you? So tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. So we had started working with a company back in 2018. And I didn't really know a lot about what they did, but I signed up for a wealth tour that they were doing here in Toronto and learned all about passive income streams and private lending and all kinds of different real estate centered investments. So when COVID hit and my business became non-essential, we went from being extremely busy all the time to a grinding halt. Like we had probably about 300,000 in cancellations, $1 million in our pipeline that all disappeared. So I had to look at it from the standpoint of what am I going to do next if this lasts a really long time? And I'd already been investing heavily in real estate for the past few years. So it just made sense. I'll get my real estate license. So my daughter was only 3 months old at the time when COVID hit, but a few months passed and, the pandemic was obviously not going anywhere. So I decided I'm going to do it and got my license. And now I'm working at the brokerage and I'm going to start working with clients very soon.
That sounds very, very interesting. And how is the real estate market at the moment, Serena?
Yeah, it's a really crazy seller's market. So I think it's really, really common that people are seeing, 40, 50 offers sometimes on the same property. And TREB, which is our local real estate board, just actually released information that due to a shortage of supply, properties have gone up another 22%. So I feel very bad for all those new first-time home buyers, but they say the best time to get into real estate was yesterday, but the next best time is today. So
Or if there's a crash, what is your opinion on that?
Okay, so it's unlikely we'll have a full crash, but I did take advantage of the crash in Florida. Actually, my first investment property was down in Florida because the market had collapsed there, and I was able to buy a condo for just over $100,000 and kept it as a vacation rental property for a few years. So it can happen, but that was largely based on the lending rules more so than the market itself. So I think Florida is a little bit of an isolated situation, but at the same time, I think you just have to be strategic and diversify all of your different investments.
Yes, that's great advice. Diversifying, no matter what you're investing in, that's always a wise option. And there are lots of opportunities when there is a crash. I know some people really dread crashes, but there is still a lot of opportunities for people, even all in the negativity when the crashes happen as well.
Mm-hmm.
And how is everything going through the pandemic now, where I know we've got this new variant which everyone's worrying about, but has business picked back up again for you, Serena?
Yeah, so for us, we went about 6 or 7 months with nothing. Last fall, we had a bit of business, and we even had a lot on the books for January, February, March. And then, of course, we went into lockdown again. Ontario in particular is one of the most locked down places in the whole world during the pandemic. So that lasted about 7 months. Everything that we had on the books got wiped clean again. And then since August, we've actually been quite busy and just kind of keeping up with the pace, because now everyone wants to, get out there and do stuff as soon as possible because they haven't been able to do anything for the last year and a half prior to the summertime.
I definitely see light at the end of the tunnel. So, the accidental entrepreneur, tell us why you have taken on this name, the accidental entrepreneur, Serena.
For sure. So it's something I have talked about for a long time, long before I actually wrote the book. But when I started working with Tigris, I was actually a brand ambassador, worked my way into a management role, and the company was still very, very new. It was probably only about 6 months at that time. And the woman who started it kept on asking me to be her partner, be my partner. And I was like, no, I'm going to be a journalist. And I was, volunteer videographer on the weekends and stuff like that. And an opportunity in that field didn't pan out. So I thought, you know what, I'm going to take my chances at this. And I ended up taking partnership. And then she actually left the business for personal reasons about 4 years in. So it was right at the beginning of the 2008 recession. And at the time I had thought, we can either split what's in the bank account and I can go get a job somewhere. I can potentially partner with someone else and they have 50% of my business, but I have no investment in their business, or I can take the risk and buy her out. So facing down the recession, I ended up making that decision, and it took a couple of years, but I'm proud to say I've been running it completely on my own since 2008, but paid out completely since 2010. So I kind of fell into it by accident. So I always kind of joked around that I was the accidental entrepreneur.
Congratulations. And a couple of key words I noticed there, which I'm a big believer in as well, is saying yes to opportunities. But also in entrepreneurship, you do have to take risks, don't you, Serena?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the thing. I do have a lot of respect for people that start product-based businesses where they might have, to raise $1 million in capital or borrow it from people they know just to get things going. And for us, really, we just needed, a computer and access to the internet and to start networking and meeting people. So for us, in that sense, the risk wasn't maybe quite as big as some other businesses, but absolutely, you're still going into business with companies that sometimes you know them, sometimes you don't. They have different payment terms. There have been clients occasionally that take a very long time to pay, or you have to fight to get paid. So it does come with an element of risk, I think, no matter how you look at it.
So your book, The Accidental Entrepreneur, firstly, tell us a little bit about what it's about, Serena.
Okay, so I think when people first take a look at it, they may think it's just a business book, but I literally start at the very beginning. So the book basically opens when I'm just 4 years old, and I had a lot of kind of crazy things happen to me from that age onwards. So my parents split, and then a year after that they had separated, my brother passed away in an accident that very much could have been avoided. And then beyond that, we had a lot of other losses in our family, and I moved around quite a bit. And even though that was very challenging at the time, I think it really gave me the foundation that I needed to be an entrepreneur, because I learned at a very young age, like no one's handing me anything. I couldn't even ask for $5 from my mom, for example. Like I knew I have to, work this hard to get into school and to make these opportunities for myself. So as much as I wouldn't wish it on anybody else, I think it also gave me that resilience and that persistence to do well as an entrepreneur.
What I like about what you have shared is it's a business book, but you have shared those vulnerable moments and you have shared that background and some of the struggles. I think that's really, really important. I always share my story, Serena, and I think that is so, so important. How important do you feel it is that we share some of our personal stories and our struggles?
Yeah, I think it's extremely important. I think that you can't really look at anyone's situation like in business without looking at everything going on in the background. And I think
Yes.
when you are an entrepreneur, it's just, you can breathe in life, breathe out business, and it's inextricable. So you can't really separate one from the other. And sometimes you could be going through something really significant personally, and you just have to put on that brave face and get the job done and do what you have to do. So I think there's no way to avoid linking them together. So I think I couldn't have written the book maybe any other way, even though I got feedback that I shouldn't have necessarily included some of that stuff from different people I spoke to. It just, for me, it was just, there was no way I could write it another way.
So can you share with us what was the inspiration? What was that moment where you was like, I need to write this book?
So I think almost my whole life, people have been telling me, like, your family is so crazy and all these things that happen, so you have to write a book about this one day. So I think the seed was planted very, very young. I've always enjoyed writing. Obviously, I went to school for journalism, so I did think that I was going to maybe pursue the path of magazine journalism or something like that. But I guess just as time had passed, I just, more and more things kept on happening to me in my business, with my partner leaving and crazy things happening with clients and sometimes with staff. And obviously learned a lot along the way, where I could think of certain situations where, it went this way, but if I could go back, I maybe would have done this. And I reflect on those different things. So the opportunity came about when I went to that wealth summit that I mentioned. I met a woman running a book retreat in San Diego. And I thought, you know what, this is my chance. I can finally achieve this goal and kind of work towards it. So I wrote most of the book at that retreat, continued kind of writing, and then I hit a wall when it came to publishing. So I kind of put it on the shelf for a couple of years. And then when the pandemic hit, I thought, like, when am I going to have time like this? So yes, I got my real estate license, but then I also found a publisher and we went back and forth editing for about a year. It just came out officially at the end of October.
Congratulations. I've got 2 books out there. One became an international bestseller in many different countries. I know some of the stresses behind the scenes. My book was really going really well, and then it got to proofreading. And obviously, you read the book yourself, and I was finding errors. It had to be having copywriters make different changes. I ended up having to read the book about 10 times in the end. It was very stressful towards the end, but I'm not saying that to put anyone off. It's so worth it when you get that end book, and it's a real achievement, is it, Serena?
Yeah,
when
agreed.
you get your book and it can go on to serve so many different people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I definitely think the editing was a little bit more comprehensive than I thought it would be. But just like you want it to be perfect. And then if you find like even a small little mistake, like an apostrophe missing or something like that, you're like,
Yes,
do I go back and change it now? And,
it bugs
things
you,
like that.
even
So,
one little thing.
yeah.
Because it's there. I get that totally. Serena, we're going to go to a commercial break, so please stay where you are. Thank you everyone for joining us for part 1 of Brilliance Business TV, conversations with leading experts in business. Today we're in conversation with Serena Holmes, the accidental entrepreneur. Stay tuned.
Hello, this is Stephen Buckner, and just wanted to tell you I support the Dreamweaver project. It's a great project where, artists such as myself will be able to come together and basically collaborate and to have a retreat to feel accepted and welcome. And that's something that artists here and around the world could always benefit from. So I just want to say, please support the Dreamweaver project. I think it's for a great cause, and I salute all the independent artists out there and artists that are signed as well. And have a wonderful day.
Welcome back to Brilliant Business TV conversations with leading experts in business. Today, my special guest is Serena Holmes, the accidental entrepreneur. Serena, welcome back to the conversation.
Hello.
So my next question, we go out, we get a copy of The Accidental Entrepreneur. What lessons can readers of the book expect to learn?
Yeah, I think for people that are reading the book, it ranges in terms of lessons that could be adopted for your personal life, but also professionally. So as I mentioned, there's a lot of personal stories. So I do talk about overcoming tragedy and grief and how to kind of push through those really difficult situations. So I think it could be for someone that is looking for someone to relate to, or, how did they, not let this define them or defeat them in different ways. And then also as a business owner, I do talk about things like the buyout and buying my first office and some challenges that, again, I had with clients, like what do you do when a client owes you a ton of money and, they're ignoring all of your attempts to get it? And just, sometimes it requires some out of the box thinking. And then at the end of the book, I actually have 10 top tips for budding entrepreneurs. So I do talk about some of the efficiencies that I found really helpful running my own business. And I really believe, I had a coach probably after about 8 or 9 years. Up until that point, I've been winging it. So I do believe, I'm a huge believer in having coaches and mentors. So if you can take away things from that, learn some things and ideally avoid making different mistakes or get to where you want to go faster. I'm all for that because it's something I wish I'd done a little bit sooner.
I like the way it's supporting people in their business lives, but their personal lives as well. I think it's really important to get that balance right. And you mentioned top tips there, 10 top tips. I'm not going to ask you to share all of them, but could you just share 2 of them with us, just so we get a kind of feel of the kind of tips that you're sharing?
Sure.
I'm putting you on the spot now.
I know. I'm like, I got to flip to the back of my book here. I'm like, what did I say?
Show us the book.
Okay,
cover.
So there are 2 tips, but here's the cover. So
lovely.
That's me. So I guess in terms of a couple of them, there was a mentor that I had that wrote a book called Suggestology, and he talked about the importance of asking questions. So the person who asks the questions controls the conversation.
Yes.
And I've had sales meetings where I'm meeting with a client and literally they don't ask me anything. I just ask them question after question. And they start to really feel like, wow, you take this active interest in everything that they're saying. And at the end, they just want to sign the dotted line and they don't know anything about you whatsoever. So I think that's been really powerful. Another one that seems a little bit maybe simple, but I'm a big believer in keeping your email super organized. So I immediately will file things together that I know need to be together. So for example, if we are planning an event, you keep things super organized there, but anything left in your email inbox is what needs to be dealt with. I think there's nothing more stressful than having 1,000 emails in your inbox, and it's very easy to get overwhelmed and lose productivity and things like that. So I do talk about some of the ways that I kind of manage that, because as an entrepreneur and a business owner, you're getting emails from all of your team, all of your clients, you're CC'd on so many different things. And there just has to be a way to manage that appropriately so that you can focus on what's most important in your day.
I hear you totally. I have 3 different email accounts, and it can be very overwhelming at times trying to get through your email inbox. I have to keep some things unread so that I can go to my unread folder knowing that they're there as a priority. So I'm scared to open them so I don't lose them from my unread folder, and I have to put them back to my unread folder. So I'm with you on that totally. So my next question is, what lessons did you learn, if any, when writing the book?
Okay, so I'll talk about two lessons. So one talks about the lesson of writing the book itself. I did get an advance author copy in the summer, and I had a few people read it. And there were definitely a few things that kind of came out of that had to be changed. And I think looking back, maybe I would have wanted to get the book into more people's hands just to get that feedback before I was ready to go into distribution, so that I had more time to deal with it, because I was kind of promoting a certain launch date, but because I wanted to go back and change things, it pushed it back a little bit. So I think definitely trying to get as many sets of eyes on it as you can, because even with you and an editor, there's going to be things that other people see that you may have missed.
Yes.
So I think that's very, very important. The other lesson, or I guess I should say what I learned, actually came about with the situation with my brother passing. So after I had published it, I had a family member that came out to me and basically shared some information pertaining to his death and kind of what happened leading up to his death, and information that, I'm 40 years old now, and he passed away when I was 6. And it's something I've literally had never heard of any of these things before. And, it meant a lot to at least hear some of that, because it is something that our family doesn't talk about. It was a tragedy, but at the same time, it was in part negligence leading to that. So it was really, I think, helpful for me to hear that feedback and information from family that, there was other extenuating circumstances and stuff like that I think was important to know.
We're both 40, both looking fabulous at 40. And Serena, I know you say it was important for you to hear that, but as well, that could have been quite a dark time where really negative things that you were hearing could have really have triggered you. So even though it was important to hear as well, I bet that did take you back a little bit, and I bet that could have been a little bit hard for you, but really important to know that information.
Yeah, I think so. I think, at the end of the day, we can't change anything. And I think knowing what kind of person my brother was, if this hadn't happened, I'm sure any number of other things could have happened, because he was a very curious and adventurous individual. But at the same time, he shouldn't have been home alone. We all thought, I think at that time, that it was an isolated situation. And from what I learned, it was not. So it's just really disappointing and frustrating to hear that, because maybe there's a chance he could have been with us today if the parenting had been put into practice a little bit better at that time.
I hear you. It's great that you're sharing these stories and memories, because it could just help people out there that are grieving, who may be going through some kind of loss or some kind of grievance. I just really put my hands up and say well done for sharing those vulnerabilities, because some people don't like to share the good, the bad, and the ugly. I'm all about it. I think it's so important. So I really do admire that you are sharing those vulnerabilities. Who is the accidental entrepreneur perfect for? Who would you say should go out and get this book?
Yeah, for sure. So I think obviously budding entrepreneurs and business professionals, I think it would benefit them significantly. But then, of course, also for the people looking for someone to relate to, someone that maybe needs some motivation and inspiration in their life. I know that there have been some situations where people experience something and they could be at a crossroads where you could say, okay, well, I can use this to my advantage and use this to overcome, or I could let this completely get me down and go a different path. But I'd like to think that by reading this book, hopefully people can relate to it and look at how they can, handle those things or overcome those things to be the best version of themselves.
What would you say was the main overall message that you are conveying in this book?
Yeah, I think for me, it was a lot about going from surviving to thriving. Even when I took the opportunity to get involved in Tigris directly, I was just looking to make money. Like, I was a year out of school, I've got to pay off my little loan, and I want to start earning some money and saving towards my first house and things like that. And I went from just that survival mode and just paying bills and living paycheck to paycheck to really thriving. So I think it's all about, turning tragedy into triumph. And I think it's important that no matter what that means to you or what path that takes you on, whether it's entrepreneurship or maybe it's, something to do with family, I think it's really just a matter of turning those challenges into something that can be successful for you.
We We are so on the same page, Serena. I am definitely resonating with everything what you say. I always talk about turning tragedy into brilliance. I don't know whether you know my story. I come from being really heavily bullied, severe drug addiction where I collapsed and died from drug use. I've been through all the things that you're sharing where you're struggling to get paid every month and just get by. I've gone from being a freelance hairstylist to totally changing to media and PR, and it's been a rough journey. It's not always been a laptop lifestyle, but now I am in a place where I can work from anywhere in the world and thriving. I've still got a long way to go, but I am resonating with everything what you have shared. I want to encourage all people out there watching, go out and get a copy of The Accidental Entrepreneur. Go to www.serenaholmesauthor.com. That's www.serenaholmesauthor.com. serenaholmesauthor.com. Serena, I have really, really enjoyed having a conversation with you. Thank you so much for being my guest today on Brilliance Business TV.
Awesome. Thanks again for having me.
I am going to let you close the show today, Serena. We've been through a global pandemic. We have had ups, downs. There is light at the end of the tunnel. We're not out of it yet. A lot of people may be struggling out there, whether it be with grief, with trauma, any kind of domestic violence, what's going on a lot because people have been trapped in lockdowns with their people at home, and people have gone out of business, people have lost jobs. And though there has been a lot of positivity, a lot of people have struggled, and a lot of new budding entrepreneurs coming into the space as well. Give us a few words of wisdom, some positivity and inspiration to close the show, Serena.
For sure. So I guess as cliche as it sounds, I think you need to hope for the best, but expect the worst. When the pandemic hit, like I mentioned, we lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in business, over $1 million in our quotes, in our pipeline. It just disappeared. And I had a team of 10 people working with me, and I had to decide, this might be over in a month. It could last for 3 years or 5 years, who knows? And I really want to have a business to come back to when it's all over. So I had to make a lot of very, very quick and big business decisions by letting some people on my team go, just trying to reduce our expenses completely, just knowing that we have no money coming in. We actually can't be bringing in money the way that we used to, and just trying to plan for the long game. And then now here we are, I guess it's coming up to 2 years since it started, and we actually have more money now than we did starting out, just because we've been smart with the decisions that we've made and taking advantage of government subsidies and things like that. So I think no matter what, you always just, for sure, hope for the best, expect the worst, but just plan accordingly so that you can come out stronger.
I love that. Hope for the best and expect the worst. That's great advice. And then if you expect the worst, when good things happen, it's a blessing and you really feel the gratitude for it. Serena, thanks once again for coming on to the Brilliance Business TV show.
Thank you. Thanks again.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you everyone for watching Brilliance Business TV Conversation.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.